Project KZ. KZ what? What's it still doing on the crane, I hear you ask? Yes, I thought he'd finished all that. Well, I have, at least episode-wise. I'm kind of departmentalising the episodes as much as I can, because you know how random I am. So this turned up today, talking random. It's some foam. We'll be looking at making a seat, I guess. So we've started with obviously a paper trace, loosely scribbled around that before we paint it, as you can see. And from that, we've mapped that out onto the old door from the old AC unit. Yeah, we're recycling. And we've already established that this is a little bit wide on the paper, so I'm just going to take some measurements over here and then work out exactly where we want to cut it over here. And when I say exactly, I mean roughly exactly. As you're well aware, you can't put stuff back, so it's always best to err on the side of safety. So that's what I'm going with, that inside line. And we'll see how that works out. Oh, I know. What a mess, eh? Well, yeah, it didn't go too well because I was trying to use that very old and very used cutting wheel. I think that's at it, but we got there. Well, it's actually not a bad rough first cut, honestly. We are talking rough, as you can see. So that tapered bit obviously is going to go up the back, and I'm not going to bend it until we get nearer that stage. And then obviously the overhang is because we're intending to mount these onto there. So we need another, 5-6 inches, right, to get to the tank. And we'll probably put some mounts in on the frame to bolt it down there. So what next, I hear you ask? I was wondering the same thing myself. Well, I think as I'm so happy with the fundamental shape of it as it is, I think I'm just going to clean it up. So just to clarify, what this is the base for the foam that then sits on that tailpiece and covers up the big hole that otherwise you would fall down the middle of, especially if you've got a skinny little butt like mine. But as we've just discussed, the front 6 inches are obviously clear of the tail unit, and they would need some kind of mounting onto the frame itself, which will probably be some of our favourite rivet nuts. Yeah, we like rivet nuts. Okay, so tied it up quite a lot actually, and now I think what I want to do is put this bend in it. And I haven't got anything, that's specifically that radius, so I'm going to use our faithful old bit of solid old doweling. If you haven't got a baseball bat kicking around, I can recommend a pepper pot. I mean, at the end of the day, you need something cylindrical to start bending it in the right place at somewhat the right radius. Wine bottle might work. Yeah, that's a better starting point. The trouble is I had to drink the bottle of wine. Nah, it's still there. Something like that. Maybe. Yeah, it's pretty close. Need a little bit more. Okay. See, I wasn't kidding. And that's about it, honestly. Yeah, a little too much, if anything, but we're going to have to find some way of securing this at the back end, and that can just pull it in. We're a little over the edges here, and actually what we want to be is inside the edges, because obviously the material is going to wrap around this as well. So we can afford to take off at least 5 mil all around that edge, I guess, using my old finger technique, trying not to cut myself on the slightly sharp edge. There you go. There you have it. Not sure the best way to do that, actually. Probably not with this boy. which is what I used to tidy it up with. Probably get the old angle grinder out again with a grinding disc as opposed to a cutting disc on it, and just shave that down on that edge and do it outside because it's going to make a hell of a mess. Bit of a rethink on the seat itself, essentially because all the measurements are wrong. So it's going to be looking more like this. We're going back to a cardboard template. It's probably where we should have started. Anyway, we're only going to have to cut more out, which is fine. Gone back to a cardboard template because obviously the seat itself, whilst free and easy, is wider than it's actually going to end up even at this point. So where the tail unit ends, we're going to be pulling it in to these mounting posts for the battery cradle. So that is 7.5 inches, so maybe ½ inch either side for the actual plastic element of the seat or the tail cowling itself. And then of course this then tapers further to no more than 6 inches where it hits the tank. So that's got to be taken into account as well. That's what that's doing, hopefully. So let's cut that out and see what that looks like. Looking good on the tail piece itself, bearing in mind that those points there are going to be inboard by another inch. So yeah, that's kind of going to work like that. Let's just check out the front end. Okay, something like that, unless we want to literally follow the frame and kind of straight line it from this point. I kind of like the curve. I think that'll work, especially once we've got, you know, foam and material wrapped around it. I think that'll look fine. Okay, that's good. So now we just need to translate that to the metal piece itself, and as you can see, my thinking was kind of going in the right direction already. Alright, great. There we go. So I don't know how I'm going to do that. I might use the angle grinder again, I think, to start. Yeah, probably. Okay, so it's coming up. Narrowed down to the 6 inches down here, not 10.5. I need to burn off some of those corners, but we're getting there. Well, it's coming along. It's not pretty, but it kind of doesn't have to be, honestly. It's just got to fit the foam on it. It's getting there. Next up, foam of a different kind. And I reckon we've got 2 hits at this, so let's see what happens first time around. Well, that kind of works. Amazing. Yes. What's even better is that this kind of works. Yes, this is the seat covering that I carefully took off the Ducati Monster. It's rather nice, fake carbon-y look, and it kind of fits. So I think I'm going to take this to my friend Doris, wherever her name is, it's something like Doris, and get her to do that properly. But before we do that, I'm going to put the tank back on and put the seat in place just to make sure that we've got the length and everything right on it, because we don't want to end up with it slightly too long in the front or something so it butts up and we have to cut it. Well, I'm glad I checked that before I shipped it off to Dora, that's her name, because yeah, we're quite a long way out here. I like the idea of the metal plate going under though, maybe, but obviously the padding and the seat itself doesn't need to go under. Definitely need to cut some off regardless. Measure it up, chop it and get it off to Dora. Okay, so there we have it. It tucks under the seat. That's where the phone's going to stop, that line that I've drawn. Can you see that? So now what we need to do is work out how we're actually going to mount this, the seat, to the tailpiece. No, haven't thought this one through. Anyway, at the back, pot rivets. So here's what happens, right? You put the tailpiece on, tighten those down, slot the seat in there, push it back, and then tighten it up through there somewhere. Not wanting to over-engineer it, I've decided to just go for one central one, and I think we're going to go M5. Small enough to care, big enough to cope, whatever it is. Yeah, that one. Yeah. So, just in case you've not watched any of my other series and are wondering how the hell you do this, I'll go through it again briefly. First off, we're going to drill a hole in here. That's just big enough for that to fit through. It's probably going to be a little bit small, but bear in mind it wiggles around a bit, and yeah, so that's what we can do anyway, even if we have to drill it out. So that's the 7/32 I'm using. We might have to go up to a quarter, we might just wiggle it around. Well, it was a quarter, so which was my gut feel. Anyway, so there it is, facing in, which could be a pain in the butt, literally. So now we're going to clamp it in there, and this time around you can actually see it happening, I suppose, if I set the camera up right, because it's all out there. Normally when you're putting these in, of course it's in this dark, dull void that you can't get to, so you can't actually see what's happening. So I guess it would be kind of cool from that point of view. So the tool itself, love this packaging by the way, which you'll see in a minute. Tool itself, standard riveter, and chain swap out this part, which is exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to shut that up, flip the case over. How cool is that? Wonderful packaging. M5, clearly labelled, lovely. Yes, not the road to Devon. So in here is what we're going to throw in there. So we're going to undo this. We're going to undo that. Then we're going to slot this boy in through the back, because that's what does the pulling. And we're going to slot this boy on the front, because that's what it pulls against. Now you can, if you want, you can put the collar on and whatever, but you don't really need to. This will do the job. So as you can see, that's threaded, so we're actually going to screw that into the rivet nut until it's nice and flush via that boy, like so. So that boy now looks like that. We're screwed into that as far as it will go, and now I've got to try and see if I can set up the camera so you can see what's happening while I squeeze these boys together. Does that work? Let's give it a go. See that? You simply unscrew the device from the rivet and are left with the result, which is this. Yeah. So as you can see, that ribbed bit has been crushed against the side of this, and the ribbing itself will grip against the surface of the item that you put it in. So we're good to go. So there it is, ready to go to Dora. So here endeth the episode, I believe, with the rest of the job left up to the professionals. So as always, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you thought the video was any good, give it a thumbs up, and yeah, encourage others to watch my lunacy.